Today on The Winning Walk with author and pastor Dr. Ed Young.
When Washington is broken and overextends itself, this is the primary cause of problems on Wall Street. And therefore, it is highly appropriate that we in the church deal with situations where morality is involved as far as handling the economy of our land.
What does biblical living look like when Wall Street is broken? Welcome to this edition of The Winning Walk with Dr. Ed Young. I'm Wayne Shepherd. There is no doubt that Wall Street is broken, but the question is, how are Christians to live in spite of what we see happening in our economy? Dr. Young helps answer this question as he wraps up his Healing Broken America series with a two-part message today and tomorrow. It's called A Broken Wall Street, and it will give you insight into how you should respond as a Christian in a culture of excess. Here's Dr. Young.
A pastor down in South Georgia was concerned about his teenage son. He seemed to have little ambition and didn't have a clue as to what he would do to make a living, what his vocation would be. And so his father, who was the pastor, decided to put a little test. And so he went up to his room one afternoon, and there was a little counter there that you would see when you'd walk in the door. And he put a Bible down on the counter. And he said, and a silver dollar down on the counter. Yeah, he put some Jack Daniels down on the counter, whiskey. Put down a Playboy magazine. See, if my son comes in and takes a Bible, he's going to be a preacher like me. That's good. If he takes a silver dollar, that means he's going to be a businessman. That's good. If he takes a drink, he's going to be a drunken bum. That's bad. And if he thumbs through the magazine, he's going to chase women all his life. So the father hid behind the door to see what the son would do. And so he came in from school and threw his books on the bed and saw the display on the counter. He went over there and picked up the Bible and put it under his arm. Picked up the silver dollar and put it in his pocket. Took a shot of the whiskey. Began to thumb through the magazine. His father said, "Oh, no. He's going to be a politician." You might wonder why I'm still picking on Washington when our title today deals with the economy, deals with Wall Street. It is because that when Washington is broken and overextends itself, this is the primary cause of problems on Wall Street. There's an unholy alliance that got us into the mess that we are now in. So we're talking about economy. Economy is a biblical word. In the Greek, the word economy means to set your house in order. It means to handle your money and your property and your wealth in an orderly, systematic fashion. Economy. And therefore, it is highly appropriate that we in the church deal with situations where morality is involved as far as handling the economy of our land. And so we know that we as Americans, we use and employ a system we call capitalism, a free market. And my thesis is this: any economic system that is not based on a worldview is broken. And the people will suffer sooner or later. Say it again. Any economy that's not based on a biblical worldview, the people will suffer The economy is broken. The people will suffer sooner or later. Now, by a biblical worldview, I doesn't mean that everybody in that country believes in God and believes in the Bible. But part of a biblical worldview is there is law, there is order, and the principle of the Bible: thou shalt not kill, thou shalt not steal, thou shalt not bear false witness, thou shalt not commit adultery. The basic principles of an orderly society, which is a biblical worldview, must be down. Our economy, whatever the economy might be, will be broken. And the people will suffer sooner or later. You have to have that givenness in a biblical worldview. We see that biblical worldview is the basis upon which we have our Constitution. We the people to the people. The Constitution is a contract that the government has made with us and we have made with the government. This is how we operate in a democracy, in a free enterprise, in a system of capitalism. My thesis is not that when you read the Bible, you see a thoroughgoing system of capitalism. That's not my argument. You can be a Christian and live under a monarchy. There were Christians who existed during the Nazi regime, during the fascist era of history. There are Christians who exist in dictatorships. You can be a good Christian and live in a socialistic nation. In fact, you can be a Christian and a socialist and go to heaven. Now, I think you might live in an economically deprived part of heaven. But you certainly can be a socialist and be a Christian. But I think that it is the Bible that has logically led the Western society into capitalism, into a free market system. It just leads us there by definition. And what a radical difference we see throughout history and in America today between countries that are socialistic and countries that are capitalistic. You cannot name a single country of any size that is socialistic, that has a middle class. There's not one. There's not one that has a strong middle class. A country of any size that is socialistic that has a middle class. So we see that capitalism works. For example, take the nation of Ireland. 50 years ago, the only thing that Ireland exported was its young people because they had no jobs. They had no real infrastructure. They had no real systematic government. 50 years ago, all the young people left Ireland. But they began to change their form of government. They moved into a capitalistic system in Ireland. And therefore, they began to strengthen their infrastructure. Now they have some of the finest schools on the face of this earth. They have very, very low taxes. And they have invited capitalists to come in and money to come in from foreign entities, and many companies and corporations have moved there. It has been a prosperous land up until recent years. And they are in a difficult time, as we are in America, with a deficit problem in their budget. But they are approaching that problem the way all thoroughgoing capitalistic nations approach a problem. The way you and I approach a deficit problem. We can't pay our credit card. What do? We cut down so we'll be able to pay it. And that's what Ireland is doing today. They have drastically cut their federal government way, way, way down. They have given everybody who works for the government severe pay decreases. And the Prime Minister himself has taken a 20% pay decrease. And therefore, the BBC says they may get their house in order sometimes by the end of 2010 or 11 because they're approaching their problem like capitalistic nations do. 50 years ago, Ghana and South Korea had the same per capita income 45 years ago. Very, very low. Ghana took the path of socialism. And Ghana today is 100th In all the nations of the world, as far as the economy is concerned, they remain a third world developing country with tremendous problems of poverty, etc. At the same time, they started equal with South Korea, and South Korea became a capitalist nation. And today, South Korea is 12th in economy in all the world and have an exploding economy. And South Korea, incidentally, is the most Christianized nation on the earth. 90+% of the population in South Korea will tell you they are born-again Christians. Do you see a difference? You say, well, what does the Bible say about this? Now, you can't say the Bible teaches capitalism clearly. It's not nearly that simple. But you can say the implications are clearly taught in God's Word. Let me read you a story, a parable that Jesus told. Does it sound like capitalism or socialism? Listen to the parable found in Matthew, chapter number 25, verse number 14 following. Again, the kingdom of heaven can be illustrated by the story of a man going into another country who called together his servants and loaned them money to invest for him while he was gone. He gave 5,000 to one, 2,000 to another, 1,000 to the last, dividing it in proportion to their abilities, then left on his trip. The man who'd received the 5,000 began immediately to buy and sell with it, and soon he earned another 5,000. The man with the 2,000 went right to work too and earned another 2,000. But the man who received the 1,000 dug a hole in the ground and hid the money for safekeeping. After a long time, their master returned from his trip and called them to him to account for his money. The man to whom he had entrusted the 5,000 brought him 10,000. The master praised him for his good work. You have been faithful in handling this small amount, he told him, so now I will give you many more responsibilities. Begin the joyous task I've assigned to you. He made him a partner. The next man came who had received 2,000 with the report, sir, you gave me 2,000 and I have doubled it. Good work, said his master. You're a good and faithful servant. You've been faithful over this small amount, so now I'll give you much more. Made him a partner. Then the man with the 1,000 came and said, sir, I knew you were a hard man, and I was afraid you would rob me of what I'd earned. So I hid your money in the earth, and here it is. But the master replied, wicked man, lazy slave, since you knew I would demand your profit, you should have at least put in the bank so I would earn some interest. Take the money from this man. Give it to the man who has 10,000. For the man who uses well what he is given shall be given more, and he shall have abundance. But from the man who is unfaithful, even what little responsibility he has shall be taken from him. And throw this useless servant out into outer darkness, and there shall be weeping and gnashing of teeth.